So really small Tyranid news today. Looks like Games Workshop have revealed the new Ripper Swarms for Tyranids, so let's talk about their place in the higher fleet, the new model versus the old, and their rules in 10th edition. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today we're talking Tyranids once more, and it does seem that alongside their main schedule reveals, Games Workshop do seem to be happy to slip some miniatures into the back of their other photos once again. The other day I did mention as an aside in the drop pod video that it did look like we might have a few lurking Rippers in the back of that photo, but now it looks like we actually have the full Ripper Swarm revealed to us, again in a very similar picture around the Space Marine Land Raider. So here's the full picture of the Games Workshop teaser. This one's just a promo picture for new Warhammer 40k, and it's basically focused around Primaris Space Marines getting out of a Land Raider. Looks like they are confirming that we can put Assault Intercessors in those, as they said before. Should be great fun with that Assault Ramp rule. Looks like these guys might have a 20-inch charge threat range on average, and seem to have used that to get into the heart of the Tyranid lines, fighting against some new Termagants and the Von Ryan's Leapers lurking at the back. For all the new shiny Tyranids and the bigger ones lurking over their shoulders as well, it's the little guys who are perhaps most interesting today. A squad that was kind of expected to be on the new Termagant frame, but for some reason they hadn't shown it off yet, but it seems they do like dropping us these little Easter eggs in their promo pictures, and have revealed the Rippers hiding at the back alongside those Von Ryan's Leapers. Here's just a bit of carapace that we saw from the drop pod teaser. Looks like that probably was new Rippers after all. It was kind of a bit hard to tell with only a tiny sliver of the base to go by, but judging by the new model, it does look like we can see one of the Ripper's claws and the carapace really quite close to the ground. I can't help but think that the person who puts together these 40k dioramas and promo teasers has quite a lot of fun with this. They've done some very similar things when we had the Necrons revealed last year. Things like the Hexmark Destroyer being revealed a really long time before, but lurking in the shadows so we couldn't really see what he was. So let's talk Rippers, their current models and their new ones, and talk about their 10th edition rules. In 40k, Rippers aren't exactly the biggest and most showy of the Tyranid organisms, but they might be one of the most important ones in terms of how they actually function. They've generally been described as small maggot-like Tyranid life forms that are mainly used to strip a planet's clean of biomass once the Tyranid invasion has broken the back of the enemy defense. Rippers are pretty tiny and maybe not normally meant for frontline combat and actually destroying the enemy's best elites, but once the defense has largely been broken, they can be well capable of just overwhelming small pockets of resistance, enormous swarming masses that are too numerous for any one foe to fight, dragging down foes that are far bigger than them. Rippers are very basic and simple organisms within the Tyranid hierarchy. They're completely mindless, and if they stray out of synaptic control of other Tyranid organisms, they barely even have any lurking instinctive behaviour to fall back on, and will generally die in their own right without any help from the enemy. That's not really a problem though if the Tyranids are in good control of a planet, and they'll typically overrun the entire world, devouring everything from animals to vegetation to any biomass in the soil of the planet, and then they happily bound back to the digestion pools, throwing themselves in, and both their own bodies and everything that they've consumed gets processed anew to make new organisms for the higher fleet as they leave the barren planet behind. Currently, these little bitey Tyranids have two different models that you can get. Perhaps the more commonly seen is the top one, a single base in the Termagant kit, 4 little individual models. Really quite simple miniatures, but they do the job for quite a straightforward organism. They're a little bit weird in army construction, as they don't really have their own specific 40k kit, but do operate as a unit in the fast attack section, where you need 3 Ripper Swarms. I do kind of wonder if this might have been a slight motivation behind putting the start collecting box for Tyranids to have 3 units of Gaunts in it. That way, as well as a big horde of Gaunts, you also get 3 different Rippers, so you can actually field them as a full squad right out of the box, so I guess that works out okay in terms of army building. The other option, if you don't mind some expensive resin, are these Forge World Rippers, which I think do look rather good. A big stacked top and fairly overcrowded base, perhaps not too dissimilar to that artwork that we had before for them. I feel like these guys do look pretty awesome, though they're kind of hard to paint. Just being in one big solid mass of resin is kind of hard to get to all the recesses. I think along with a fair few of the Tyranid troops though, they're a unit that could well have done with an update, and I think it's sensible that Games Workshop redid them alongside the Termagant box. I feel like little swarms and things alongside your main troops are quite a nice feels good thing to have in the main troops box, kind of similar to how you get Scarabs when you get Necron warriors. These ones, like with pretty much all the Tyranid models that they've been updating recently, have really quite a good sense of motion. You can really feel like they're bounding forward, and I feel like compared with the fairly old sculpts they've been updating, they just look a fair bit more alive than previous Tyranid ones have. The old ones weren't exactly entirely monopose, but perhaps not enormously far off. These ones have got some good variation with their height, and I'm sure we'll have some slightly less blocky details than the older ones that we've got now, even though it's kind of hard to make it out from a little teaser at the back of a Games Workshop photo. My guess is that either way we'll still just be getting the one base in the Termagant kit. Looks like there's only one base that's pictured alongside the Termagant swarming those Space Marines, and there was only one base in the drop pod picture. I feel like if there'd been 3 of them, we probably would have seen at least a hint that there's more than one. So I'd guess it's going to be the similar number in the kit as it is now, unlike the Necron warriors who get 3 different Scarab swarms in the same box. Could be wrong though, I kind of feel like getting 3 Rippers will be kind of fun alongside the Termagants. Again, I do quite like the Necron troops, how they're able to field 2 units just from their basic troop box. Of course we do already have some 10th edition rules for them, though I'm not sure that we've got the full picture for them yet. This one's their current 9th edition datasheet. Ripper Swarms as a fast attack choice, as 45 points for a unit of 3 of them. You can take plenty more in the squad. And in the latest Tyranid Codex, they're kind of an anti-infantry chaff unit. Perhaps their most significant thing that they can do is deep strike with that death from below rule. And then their main purpose is just going to be to get in the way and use their OK durability to soak up fire. At 4 wounds per base, most quality shots are going to be pretty wasted against them, and they can even soak up a surprising amount of anti-infantry shooting, even if most things are going to wound and kill them fairly well. Their offense though, even for their cheap 45 points, really is quite bad. They only hit on 5+ for some reason. I guess they're not over-coordinated with those little jaws of theirs. It means that a unit of 3 of them's only going to land 4 strength 3 attacks on their opponent, which isn't particularly impressive. Currently they can take spine moors as a little bit of anti-infantry shooting up very close. I feel like this kind of undermines their role as a really cheap expendable tough unit though. In previous versions of the Codex they would kind of auto-include little troops. Just having 1 or 2 units to pop up on objectives generally helped out quite a lot with the objective game, even if they weren't exactly going to do any of the damage dealing themselves. In the latest Tyranid Codex though, they seem very sidelined. Move to fast attack means they lost OBSEC. They've got lots of competition for various other chaffed Tyranid units, things like fast moving gargoyles with OBSEC might be one. And given that they're the same points, they feel kind of directly inferior to the Forge World Sky Slasher swarms. They move faster and have basically the same rules. In 10th edition though, we haven't actually seen a full Ripper datasheet, and I guess we don't 100% know whether or not we're going to get one. The rules that we have seen though were on one of the 2 different variant Termagant datasheets. They revealed 2 different ones during their initial live stream, and my guess is that one of these is probably either a launch box one or one that's specific for the Combat Patrol game mode, which they're going to have to change the rules for a little bit if they want to have some sort of balance between Combat Patrol boxes. This is the one that featured the Rippers, and I guess it might be a Combat Patrol one maybe. The rules are a little bit worse than the other Termagant datasheet, and it looks like you get a Ripper unit rolled into the datasheet, as opposed to the other one which has them separate. From this preview there's a few interesting features I guess. Their durability I think is maybe a bit of a side grade. They still have the big 4 wounds which will soak up anti-infantry fire pretty well, but then they've had some values shifted around otherwise. Their save has gone up to a 5+, but their toughness is down to 2, so even things like las guns will be wounding them on a 3+, I suppose. The better save really is quite nice though. I kind of wonder whether this might be a bit of a trend of 10th edition that we haven't really seen yet. The lowest saves in the game increasing just a little bit to make AP and cover just a bit more meaningful for those units, as they kind of have limited importance if you've only got a 6+ save. It could just be a consolidated saving throw though to keep them the same as the Termagants, but that would be kind of at odds with having different toughness values. In any case, on their offensive, their attack if anything seems to have got even weaker. 4 attacks hitting on 5s with a strength of 2. Really bad by just about anyone's standard there. They're going to struggle even more to bring down even standard light infantry, let alone anything with an actual decent toughness or save. Space Marines in particular just look like they're not going to care about these guys whatsoever, wounding on a 6 and then saving on a 3. Otherwise, they've got Objective Control 1, which I guess is kind of interesting, as this Termagant squad is almost certainly going to be a battle line. Looks like they keep the boosted Objective Control for the Termagants themselves, and then true to their lore, their leadership is 10. They're really going to need to be in Synapse if they're not going to suffer battle shock hard. My guess would be at this point is that they will still probably get their own datasheet. The Necron Scarabs do currently, despite appearing in the Warrior box, though they admittedly do have a full squad of 3 in the set. I feel like one thing that might tip the balance might actually be the existence of those Forge World Rippers. If they're still going to be sold individually as a squad of 3, it seems likely that they will actually need a dedicated Ripper datasheet and not just to fold them into Termagant units, so hopefully Tyranid players can still field big swarms of these if they want to. So anyway, a fun little Tyranid teaser there. From their last teaser it seems like we've got more Tyranid goodness on the way. The beta Winged HQ from the cinematic trailer should be coming on Monday, and I'll most certainly be covering it on the channel when we get news of that. Looking forward to talking lots of Tyranids in the future. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where I'll certainly keep the 40k videos coming. I do tend to post new ones just about every day. And finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and you can find that linked down in the video description. Channel patrons do get a few advantages: seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.